What's up guys, Mike Builds. Welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be taking a look at this Vevor diesel heater. I finally hopped on the diesel heater bandwagon and I bought one to try out. So if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, y'all know that I like to use mini splits to heat the house, but today was very cloudy and I just got home from work, and as you guys can see, we're only at 32% state of charge on the batteries. On days like that, it makes it more difficult, I guess you could say, to be able to run the mini split continuously, or if it gets really cold outside, you know, below zero or far below zero, the mini splits don't produce a ton of heat. I've had really good luck with mine producing a good amount of heat. Like I think right now it's about 25 outside and we're getting nice hot air out of this thing. But I wanted to buy something else that we can also use off-grid in order to supplement the heating we get out of these. I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos on these diesel heaters. They're about $100. I paid about $100 for this one off eBay. So we're gonna open this thing up, unbox it, kind of take a look at everything it comes with, and we're gonna test it and try it out. This is what I plan on using to supply my supplementary heat whenever the heat pumps aren't quite enough to heat the house up, or if I wanna heat my garage up or anything like that. And the awesome thing about these is they run on 12 volts. We can use one of the 12-volt batteries so that this thing will still fully be off-grid. It's just another option you'll have at your disposal. It's another tool you can have to heat your house, especially for people up north. I don't plan on using this a bunch here in Texas, but we have had a lot of cold days lately, and I'm tired of being freezing cold, especially in my garage. And I don't know, I just wanted to kind of try one of these out. They're so cheap, I gotta see what they're about. So let's open it up. Here's the unit I chose. This is the Vevor. I believe this is the 8 kilowatt model. They have a 5 kilowatt and an 8 kilowatt. I do believe the only difference though is actually how much fuel it puts into the combustor in order to make heat. But from the other videos I've seen, people have taken these things apart and they're almost identical on the inside. I'm gonna open it for you guys because I think it's pretty easy to take apart. That way you guys can see the internals. We're gonna go over everything it comes with and try it out. In the box, you get the heater itself. This is gonna be like the exhaust pipe, and this is gonna connect to the bottom of the unit right there. The other hole is for the intake. This is gonna be your air outlet. This is gonna connect to the front of the unit right here. So this is gonna be where the air is going to come out heated. It's also got a remote, so that's pretty awesome. That's kind of the reason I picked this exact model. This is the air inlet tube. This is like a little muffler. I guess it's supposed to keep the fan noise quieter coming out of the unit. For the exhaust side, you get a little thermal sock, so that's kind of nice. I didn't know it came with that. Bunch of hose clamps, and then this is a filter for the inlet for the combustion chamber. And right here, it looks like we get a couple different maybe vent options to help connect the hose. So the biggest reason that drew me to this heater specifically, or these type of heaters, because there are a bunch of different styles on the market, is the fact that the fuel doesn't ever touch the air that's heated. So basically what that means, it has a separate combustion chamber that heats up a big metal heat sink essentially, and the air is passed over that to heat it. Like certain bullet heaters, as they're called, that you fill up fuel on the bottom that produce a big flame, those will produce a bunch of heat, but the problem is you get some of the fuel smell with it. This, if you properly route the exhaust, all the air coming out of this has zero fuel smell. So I think that's, for me at least, that's a big win. Also the fact that these units run on 12 volts, I think some of them also run on 24 volts because they are kind of made for like trucks or campers or things like that. So all you have to do is give this thing 12 volts. We're also gonna put a power meter on it and see exactly how much power this thing uses. So for you guys at home, if you wanna see how much power it uses, if you're using this on an off-grid setup like I'm going to be using, you can kind of get an idea of what the requirements are to actually power it. But from the other videos I've seen, it doesn't require a lot of power, only for heating up because it has an internal glow plug. But once the unit itself is actually up to operating temperature, it only has to power the fan and the little bitty fuel pump. Let's pop this thing open real quick and see what's inside. And the way you do that, there's these 4 latches, one here, and 2 on the other side. Here's the actual combustion chamber heater part itself, and this is just the fuel tank. You have the little dripper fuel pump right here. The only bad thing about these cheaper units, to include this unit, is this pump is a little bit noisy. However, there are aftermarket or different style fuel pumps you can buy that apparently people have put in these that makes this way quieter. But being this is one of the cheaper units, the fuel pump I've heard is really loud. So we're obviously gonna be able to tell on video how loud it really is. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I'm not gonna take this whole thing apart, but there's a connector here. And from what I've seen in the videos, this whole thing can be taken apart and very easily serviced. So that's really good to see. This is the bottom of the unit, kind of like I showed you guys before. So right here, there's an arrow. It's really hard to see, but the arrow is pointing out. So I do believe this is the exhaust and this is going to be the intake. This is for the combustion gases. The gas coming out of this is going to be quite hot, so you do want to be careful for that. And basically what we have to do is we have to take this pipe, we have to attach it and give it a hard 90 coming out like that. So I went ahead and slid the pipe on. Then I'm going to take this included hose clamp, drop it over, and then I'm going to secure it on here. It's a little bit tricky because there's not a lot of room to do that. There's actually a little bit of a hole like right here that you can go through. So I'm going to go get a smaller screwdriver to get that secured. Hose clamp's all snugged up. Now I'm going to try to give this a nice good bend. That way it can come straight out of the side of the unit. And there we go, guys. I just went ahead and bent this tube like this. There are other heaters, if you spend a little bit more money, that have the exhaust going out the back. A lot of the cheaper ones do have it come out the bottom. So if that's something you're interested in doing, make sure you buy the one that comes out the back. It is a little bit easier to manage because with this one, we're gonna have to put it on some sort of blocks to space the exhaust away from the ground. All right, next we're gonna throw the muffler on. We're just gonna literally stick this on the end. It doesn't show a direction. I guess we're just gonna plop it on. And kind of like that, I guess we'll do. And then I'll put a hose clamp right here. Oh, I did forget to put the fresh air hose on, so I'm gonna just go ahead and throw that on and I'm gonna stick that out the back. Pretty much just like that. It just kind of screws on like that. Nice. All right, as far as wiring goes, that's what they give you, just 2 bare wire ends. So I think just for now, I'm gonna attach this to a battery just so we can test run this real quick. But later on, we're gonna put probably an XT60 connector on this, and I'm gonna build a nice, cool little harness that'll let us attach it to any 12-volt battery we want, and I will show you guys how to build that. And for anyone who's curious, it has a 25 amp fuse in there. Well, this thing's pretty much set up for now. I'm just gonna throw the hose on the front like so. I think this should do a quick test run with this thing and kind of burn it in a little bit. We're gonna go put it outside and I'm gonna run this hose through one of my windows. We're gonna put some fuel in it and fire this thing up and just kind of see how good the air comes out, listen to how loud it is. And then after that, we're gonna put a power meter on it during the day because it's dark right now, and I'll show you guys how much power this thing uses. Hopefully I can find a 12-volt battery to use. Yes, I hope I have one. We'll use this one right here. This one's not connected right now. All right, here we are in my backyard. It's actually starting to sleet a little bit. It is very cold out here. Come on, kitties. Come on, Midnight. Stay cold. Anyways, my bedroom window's right here, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the heater right here with the battery, get it all set up. It's gonna be kind of hard to see because it is dark, so I'm going to do my best to film all this right now, and then we will film some more in the day as well, so it's easier to see. All right, guys, here's the setup. We have the diesel heater on a little cart. We have a battery. I have it on some wood blocks just to support it away from the exhaust on the bottom. And then I'm just literally gonna run the duct into my bedroom. Very temporary. I'm literally only doing this for about 5 minutes. Obviously, none of this is really safe, but I do want to test this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of diesel in the tank. I know it's a gas can, but it has diesel in it, about maybe half a gallon. So we're gonna throw that in there real quick and get this thing fired up. Yeah, check it out, you guys. I don't know if y'all can see that, but that's like a little bit of sleet coming down. So it's a pretty cold night here. It'll be nice to see if this thing actually works. Y'all can see in the light a little bit of snow. The moose is very excited. So we got just a little bit of fuel in it. I have it hooked up to one of our 12-volt lithium iron phosphate batteries. We're gonna go over here to display. As you can see, the little clock works. I'm gonna try to get the remote off. My hands are freezing. See how this thing works. Okay, there it goes. And now it has to go through a warm-up sequence. I'm not really sure how this works. Maybe you can set the temperature or something. Getting some smoke out of it. I don't hear the fuel pump yet. Getting a little bit of smoke out. I don't hear the fan running either. All right, I'm gonna give this a few minutes, and once it starts going, I'll bring you guys back. Okay, the fuel pump just kicked on, so you guys can hear it clicking, getting a little bit of smoke. Honestly, that's not really that loud. People were making it seem like it was really, really, really loud in all the videos. As soon as the fan kicks on, I hear it on. We're gonna go inside and see if it's blowing any hot air. All right, we're gonna give this thing a few minutes. I know there is about a 5-minute warm-up procedure from the videos I've seen. I do hear the fan slowly ramping up. So really, if you had a better way to pass this through your window in your house, this would be a really, really good emergency way to heat the house, I think, because I don't really see a lot of people use these to heat their house per se. They use them to heat their shops and their vans and all that stuff. But if you can build a really clean and safe pass-through for the hot air to go in, this is a really good way to do it. Okay, it's starting to ramp up a lot now. Another thing people do is you can put the whole unit inside, but you have to route the exhaust out. You just have to be careful because the exhaust on this thing does get really, really hot. So do keep that in mind. What's up, RJ? Where are you going? But you guys can hear it's ramping up. So now we're gonna go inside and see if it's hot yet. Okay guys, the unit does appear to be up to full operating power as far as the fan and stuff. The air coming out of this thing is quite warm. I took it back out of the window because I'm actually gonna let this thing burn in for a little bit, just for probably like 10 or 15 minutes, because as it gets hot, it's gonna burn off whatever stuff's inside the combustion chamber, as well as the things on top of the combustion chamber where the air actually flows through, and I don't wanna smell any of that. So I'm gonna let this thing kind of burn in for probably about 15 minutes. Then we're gonna stick the hose back in the house and get some nice heat. Oh yeah, that's nice. All right guys, so I have the heater blowing in the window right now. The tube isn't very hot. The air coming out is pretty hot, so I'm gonna go try to find a temp gun so we can measure exactly how hot it is. But I do suggest you guys, if you're gonna have this blowing in a living space or blowing at you to be enjoyed, I guess most people probably will, I would highly suggest you do a burn-in, because even after about 20 minutes, the air coming out of this still has a little bit of a smell to it. And I do believe that's just the unit kind of burning in from all the heat. So I'm gonna go ahead and push this back out of the window, and I'm gonna run all the fuel out of it that I put in the tank. So that'll probably run for at least another hour. Give this thing a good burn in before I stick it in the window, because I don't wanna be breathing any toxic stuff that's burning off of the inside of it. And I would highly recommend you guys kind of do the same thing at home. But the air coming out of this is very, very warm. and it would very easily warm this whole bedroom up. So imagine a full power down situation. I have no batteries in the mini split. This can provide me with plenty of emergency heat. Also, as you guys can hear from the inside, I can't even hear the unit. All you hear is the fan running, no clicking of the fuel pump. All right, guys, so now we're gonna use my little Harbor Freight thermal camera, and I'm gonna be able to show you guys the temperature of the unit, the exhaust, and all that stuff. So as you can see, the exhaust coming out of the unit right at the tip is about 360 degrees. The exhaust hose itself gets pretty hot, like I was saying before. About what, 340, 341, and that's with the little sleeve on it. That sleeve might be also holding in some of the heat. The muffler itself doesn't seem to get that hot. That was only at 179. The air coming right out of the unit, about 360 to 370 degrees, but that's also the temperature of the inside part, so the air is going to be a little bit lower than that. And then I went ahead and stuck the tube on. You know, I can see the temperature of the tube is about 149, 150 degrees. So I would guess the air is coming out of that at about 150 degrees. So that's pretty good. So we're in my little workshop office here with the diesel heater. This is the wiring that it comes with, just 2 wires. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put an XT60 on it. We're also gonna put some XT60s on this little power meter so we can measure the consumption of the unit. And then we're gonna also connect it to this adapter. So basically it's gonna go from here to the power meter to the unit itself, but everything's gonna have XT60s. That way when we're done testing it with the power meter, I can just plug this directly into the heater and then we can connect that to whatever battery we want. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all that done and I'll show you all what it looks like when I'm done. All right, guys, we got all the soldering done. As you can see, we have our connectors on the heater and we have our connectors on our power meter as well. So we're gonna be able to go test the power draw of the unit, and then when we're done doing that, all I have to do is unplug this. And there we go. We go straight to a set of alligator clips and we can connect this to any 12-volt battery we want. And because we're using an XT60 connector, we can also potentially use like a LiPo battery. Like this is an 8400 milliamp 3-cell battery. So you could use something like this to power the heater. Now this wouldn't power the heater very long. We are gonna go check to see how much power it uses so we can even get an idea on how long we can run it with this. So that's it, we're all wired up. Now we're gonna take the whole assembly outside and go mess with it. All right, guys, so here's how my heater is set up currently. I'm at my job. I work in a small repair shop. So what I do is I leave a gap at the bottom of the door. That way there's an air gap for the exhaust, so I don't burn the door. And then I just put some 2x6s to take up the air gap. Hook up my battery right there. And that's pretty much it. The air coming out of this is nice and hot. Little interface, everything seems to be working pretty good. What I've noticed is I can get a full day out of a tank of diesel, and that's about 10 hours for me, and I always still have a little bit left. So the efficiency of this thing's pretty good, and I just leave it running all day just like this, blowing hot air into my work area. All right, guys, so we're outside with the heater. We're gonna go ahead and connect our little harness we made to a 12-volt battery. Make sure we have our polarity correct. Yep, everything looks good. Got our little watt meter. It's gonna be hard to see this, so I'm gonna do my best to show it to you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and set this up and bring the camera in closer. All right, guys, try to forgive me. The screen is very dim, but I'm gonna do my very best to show you guys. But you can see we have 13.2 volts. Right now we're using 1.8 watts, so I'm gonna go ahead and kick the unit on. All right, there we go. I'm just gonna hold this steady. Just a lot of glare. It's looking about 70 watts, 73 watts, it's climbing. So the initial start of the heater is going to be higher because the glow plug is going to be heating up. 8 amps, 8.5 amps. There we go, that's a little better. Yeah, what do you guys think? So in theory, because the unit is cold and warming up, this should be about the highest power consumption we're going to see. So about 100 watts. All right, so now what I'm going to do is let this thing get fully warmed up. I'm going to keep monitoring the current. If anything changes, I'll let y'all know. But once the current drops off, I'll bring you guys back in so y'all can see what the running power of the unit is. Because running, it should only be running the fan and the fuel pump, not the glow plug heater. So it should not be using a lot of power. The unit is fully warmed up. Nice hot air out of the exhaust hole. And we're using a whopping 42 watts. So that's going to be the power consumption while the unit is up to temp. Not a whole lot at all. You should be able to get tons of runtime on this with even small batteries. Well, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this video of us messing with this diesel heater. I was very impressed with how good the heater worked. It did put out a bunch of heat, and all the videos I saw about this thing on YouTube, this thing seemed to live up to the hype that everyone says they do. My only gripe with this heater is when it was new, like before I ran a bunch of fuel through it, the actual air that comes out of the unit that's heated had a bit of a smell to it. I don't know if it's because maybe there's some stuff inside here that has to get burned off, or maybe the plastic itself was off-gassing, but for some reason when this thing was brand new, kind of like I mentioned before in the other clip, it had a weird burning smell to it. And as I ran the unit more and more, the smell slowly dissipated, but I didn't see anyone else on YouTube talking about that. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're gonna buy this and immediately shove the hose into your van or your camper or something. I don't think it's a good thing to breathe in that smell. So at least run a few tanks of fuel through the unit just to kind of burn all that out. And other than that, I had no issues with this thing. And I am happy to say after about 4 tanks of fuel, I don't smell it anymore. As far as fuel economy go, this thing was easily able to run a full 10-hour workday on a gallon of diesel, and I always had a little bit left. And that was with the machine running on high all day. And I have heard from other people that if you run these things on low, you can get 24 hours out of a gallon of diesel. So haven't tested it on this, but there's some other videos out there showing that. The control panel is pretty easy to use. The little remote it comes with is pretty easy to use. And I think for $100, you really can't go wrong. Now, as far as mounting the unit, I literally just screwed mine to some 2x6 scrap pieces of wood. This isn't the cleanest or the best idea, but you just need to use something in order to give the exhaust some space to breathe. That way that's not touching whatever you're putting this down on. And you do have to be careful because this exhaust pipe will get really, really hot even with the sock on it. So this is how I have mine set up. That way I can use this as a standalone heater. Obviously, if you mount this in a camper or a bus or something like that, you just have to route the exhaust correctly and you won't have any issues. But I ran it literally just like this for an entire week and had no issues. If that's what you guys are wanting to do, it worked pretty good. If I end up doing anything cool with this thing in the future, I'll definitely make more videos about it, but that's probably gonna be it just for now on the heater. Let me know if there's anything else you guys wanna see, if y'all need more specs or anything like that, leave your comments. I always try to reply back when I can, and that's it. So thank you guys for watching.